Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to use your hot foiling waste, because there's always a little bit of waste after every project, and turning it into a beautiful project using some new products from Spellbinders. So let's get into it. Alright, so starting off, I just wanted to cover the type of foil you want to use. Today we're doing a hot foiling with a hot foil machine, and you want to make sure you're using Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil or any foil that's meant for hot foiling, not toner foil, because that will not work. They're two separate things. Alright, so jumping right into it then, I'm going to be using my gold roll of hot foil, and I'm going to take my hot foil plate that I want to use, and I like to use a rotary trimmer. This has been a huge lifesaver for me, especially with hot foil, because you want to kind of cut right around the hot foil die, and this has been super helpful. I like this one from Cricut. It has a really great safety feature as well. You guys saw there that you can put the blade away with just a click, which is super easy. So bringing in my Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil machine, I'm going to wait until that machine says that it's ready, and then I can bring my hot foil plates in. I'm starting off with these two little butterfly hot foil plates from Spellbinders. I'm going to place them with the design side facing upward, and then I can grab my hot foil and place that with the pretty side facing the pretty side of the die. So the shiny side is going to be facing the design or metal of the hot foil plate. Then I'm going to place down my cardstock. I'm just using my Simon Hurley Create Stark White cardstock. And then I'll place down the two plates that come along with it and press the timer button. Once that timer stops blinking and turns solid, you're ready to go. You can then pull this out and run it through your die cutting machine. Here I have the Spellbinders Platinum machine, and you can have the Platinum 6 as well, and that's going to work perfect with the Glimmer hot foil machine by Spellbinders. So then I can remove that hot foil off, and you guys get that beautiful butterfly impression. I love the hot foiling because it kind of impresses in and gives that beautiful design as well. But usually with hot foiling, there's this kind of excess that you don't really get a lot of use out of. But there are these new solid plates from Spellbinders, and I know there's a larger solid plate from Pinkfresh as well. I'll link to all of them down below. But I love these different shapes because it makes it really easy to work with. I can then take the used foil that already has those butterflies out of it, and then I'm going to place that down, again, pretty side touching the pretty side of that metal foil plate, and then I'll place down my Stark White cardstock again. Again, place the plates right on top, and then we're ready to hit the timer, and once that's done, we can run it through our die cutting machine. Now this time, since I'm using that solid hot foil plate, you can see I'm running it through a lot slower, and I'm going to go back and forth several times, about 3 or 4 passes through. I find that this is going to give the best and most solid foiling. Because the foil plate is so solid, it just needs a little bit more time and pressure in the machine. Once we're done with that, we can lift off our foil here, and you'll see that that solid oval foiled beautifully, and it leaves those butterflies then blank so that you can see the cardstock through. It's a really stunning effect, and there is the finished waste. It is pretty much all used up, which I love that we get the use out of it. Then to finish off this card, I'm going to use an oval die from Spellbinders, which lines up perfectly with this hot foil plate. Place the tape down and cut it out. One thing I love about the hot foiling is that once you're done, there is that solid gold, but all the white space is still just regular cardstock, so it is inkable. So I'm going to go in with my Simon Hurley Create ink pads. Here I'm using a little bit of Prom Queen, and I'll blend it into some Shooting Star and simply color in these butterflies. It's super easy to do, and you don't need to worry about staying inside the lines or anything like that because it's all that gold foiling. And the foil is actually going to resist it, which is just such a stunning technique. For the bottom butterfly, I used a little bit of Crown Me and Clear Skies ink, and you can just see how easy it is to blend these colors together and get smooth and bright transitions. So once I'm done with all my ink blending, you'll see that there's a little bit of ink still on the surface there. Don't worry though, it's not going to mess up your gold foil at all. I went in with a microfiber cloth, or you could use a paper towel, and just buff off the surface. It's going to remove all of the excess ink, and then we have a really nice shiny gold background that wasn't affected by the foil at all. To finish off the background of this card, I'm going to go in using the Paisley background stamp from Simon Hurley Create. I'll use my anti-static powder tool because we're going to go in and do some embossing. I'm going to ink up the stamp using a little bit of clear sticky ink. Here I'm using some Versamark ink. And then we can go in and stamp this down. Whenever I stamp down background stamps, I like to take the cardstock and place it down into the stamp. And then I use this Debbie pressure tool. You can use any pressure tool just to apply an even pressure on the back to get it all covered. Then I'll throw over a layer of clear embossing powder. And then we can go in and heat set this. Now, clear embossing powder on black especially is a really fun way to add a little bit of texture, some dimension, and kind of a tone-on-tone effect without really taking over the background. I really like that it's quite subtle, but it's still going to add lots of detail to your card. So I'm going to heat set that until it's clear and shiny, and then we'll add down our gold foil piece on the center. Now for a sentiment, I'm using this pretty Peonies stamp set, and this sentiment just says, "You bring me so much joy." I love that, and I'm going to stamp that down, and again throw over a layer of clear heat embossing powder. I love doing clear heat embossing powder over black sentiments or things like that, just to give them a nice finished effect. If you guys have seen my videos, you know that I do this quite often. Then I'm going to fussy cut this out using my Spring Assist Fiskars scissors. I like to cut around sentiments like this, leaving just a little bit of a border. The reason why I do it is because I don't love the sharp edges of just a rectangle, and also cutting a little bit closer to the sentiment allows more of my design on the card to stand out and shine. I added that sentiment down, and there is the finished card. I love the beautiful gold foiling on that is super nice and solid, and the way that we were able to ink blend over top without it affecting the gold foil at all. Now for this next card, I'm going to go in using the Celestial Star background from Spellbinders. I love this hot foil plate and all those little detailed stars. I'm again lining up the hot foil plate next to the foil that I want to use, and I'm going to use my rotary trimmer to cut it down. I love this trick again because it's changed my life, because usually you go in with the scissors and kind of lift it up, and sometimes it's a little bit too small, and then you're wasting a whole piece of foil. So this has saved me so many times, and it's really easy to cut through. Then I'm going to lay down the star background, lay down my foil pretty side facing the plate, and then again the paper and the plates, and then we wait. Once that's all done, we can run it through our die cutting machine to make sure to get lots of pressure onto it, and then we have our background. And you can see all of those beautiful stars showing up, and I love this kind of gunmetal gray looking foil. It really is stunning with this background. Now this time I'm going to bring in the solid rectangle hot foil plate, and again I like these hot foil plates with the shapes because I find them a little bit more manageable to work with than a huge foil plate, but you do you with whatever you guys want to do. So then I'm going to lay down the piece of foil that we just used with the stars already taken out of it. We'll place on our cardstock and put down the plates right on top of it. Then I'll press the timer, and once that's on, we can run it right through our die cutting machine. Again, this time since I'm using a really solid hot foil plate, it does require a little bit of a slower time running it through the die cutting machine, and I find that 2 to 3 passes really helps to get a nice solid foiling. When I lift that off the cardstock, you can see just the beautiful effect that we get and how clean of a foil result it has. I love that this background just gives super solid results, and then you have those stars that are left white, which is beautiful. To finish off this beautiful galaxy foiled background, I'm going to go in using the Space Training stamp set. This was one of my first stamp sets, and I love to bring out old supplies to use them over again. So I'm going to go in with the rocket ship and the moon image from this stamp set, stamp it down using some black ink, and then we're going to throw over, you guessed it, a layer of clear heat embossing powder and heat set it. I love this especially when I'm watercoloring like I'm going to do today, because it keeps my colors inside of the lines really nicely. Then I'm going to create a palette of the colors of Simon Hurley Create inks I want to use by smooshing them down onto my craft sheet. Then when I go in and I start my watercoloring, I always like to start off with a layer of water first and lay that down over top of the image. This is going to just kind of get the cardstock ready for some color, and it'll allow it to blend a little bit easier without sinking right into the cardstock. I'll lay down a little bit of yellow, and then we can go in with less water and add a little bit of that same yellow onto one side to add some shading and get a darker color. I'll do the same thing with the rocket ship here. I started off with some water, and then we'll go in with a light layer of gray, and then I'll go in with a little bit more gray with less water to darken up some of the areas. This is a super helpful tip when you're watercoloring, just to get all of those colors nicely shaded. Then I'm going to fussy cut these images out. Again, I'm using my Fiskars Spring Assist scissors. Guys, these are game changing for fussy cutting because they spring back out at you so your hands won't get tired, and also they got a nice fine point tip so you're able to get into some of those littler details. Then I can add those down onto my card using a little bit of foam tape, make a little scene here, and then I'm going to stamp down a sentiment. Now there was a sentiment in here that said, "I love you" to the moon and back, and I wanted to cut it apart so I can stack them on top of each other. Now if you want to, you can keep them together and mask them, but if you cut them apart, you can always put them back together on an acrylic block. So I placed the sentiment down in 3 rows and I picked it up with my acrylic block. I love the grid lines on my Simon Hurley blocks just to make sure things are super nice and straight before I stamp them down. Then I'm going to ink this up with some Versamark clear ink, and we'll stamp it down onto my black cardstock. Throw over a layer of white heat embossing powder, and then we can heat set this until it's nice and bright white. And I love the heat embossed sentiments on black cardstock. It makes it super bright white and gives a great contrast. I'll add that down, and that finishes off this card completely. I love that gunmetal gray with those stars. It almost makes it feel like a galaxy, and going back in time to use the Space Trading stamp set was so fun to bring this card to life. Next, I'm going to go in with this mini rainbow foil. This stuff is really beautiful with all those different colors. I'm going to again use my rotary trimmer to cut down a piece of this that's going to fit my die. And then I'll go in with my hot foil plate. This one happens to be a beautiful mandala from Altenew. I'm going to place the foil down pretty side facing the hot foil plate. And then we'll go in with a piece of cardstock. I'm going to lay that down over top and then lay down the plates and start my timer again. Once that timer goes solid, we can run that right through our die cutting machine once again, and this is going to give us our beautiful foiling. I'm going to lift that off, and guys, this is so stunning. And if you have any overfoiling like you can see down there, you can quickly use either a sand eraser to get that off, or sometimes if just rubbing it by your finger, that will remove some of the excess foil that might have accidentally stuck down. Now again, I'm going to bring in the solid oval hot foil plate. I'll bring in my waste foil that I just used with that beautiful mandala, and we'll lay that right over top. And whatever you want to foil, you want to be on that solid oval. And you can see that we have half the mandala on there, and it's gonna give us a beautiful focal point. And I just love that mini rainbow foil is so beautiful for this effect. So once I've finished that focal point, I can then go in with the oval die again from Spellbinders. I love this die set because it's got a couple different types of ovals. Either you want pierced ovals or just a normal one, and this cuts that beautifully. So once that's all cut out, we can then go in and add that down onto our card. I added this right down onto the center of a white card base and just finished it off with a quick and simple sentiment. I thought it needed something a little bit more then, so I went in with those butterflies that we originally foiled at first, just the regular foiled butterflies, not the negative, and I'm going to just glue those down flying in different directions on the card. I like to also kind of make it stick off the edge of the oval. I find that it kind of grounds the whole card and really brings it together rather than just keeping the design on the oval. This one might be my favorite. I love the colorful background and that beautiful mandala, how we were able to use that waste to get that solid and beautiful rainbow color. And then adding those butterflies down really finished it off and brought the whole card together. Alright guys, I hope you really enjoyed that. If you did, leave a comment down below letting me know which card was your favorite, and give this video a big thumbs up. Also down below is a full supplies list, and using those links helps support me, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for stopping by and joining me, and I'll see you guys very soon for another card making video. Bye!